Presumably there's been changes of staff in the 4 years you've been there.
Yes.
And so they come in, they're new in the job, they get the introduction, you know, this is so-and-so and this is so-and-so. At what point do they find out, do you think, that you have a mental illness? And who do you reckon they find out from?
I think most of the time they find out from me. Because we'll be chatting about something and it might link into a story about family that we're talking about, but I don't sort of just come out and say, hi, how you going? I'm Nicci, I've got bipolar.
It's not on a t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah. Or a neon flashing sign. So it's just disclosed in context of the conversation that's happening at the time.
It sounds like the information stays with you, which is great that you know.
Yes.
And you sort of assess a certain level of readiness in people for you to share with them.
Yes.
You can tell from talking to people whether they're ready to hear a little more. Yeah.
For the ones that it hasn't come up through a conversation, the other young man that started around the same time, when I'm really unwell, I look really unwell, and he came into the tea room and said, "You look shocking." And he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I have bipolar and today's a bad day." And he just sort of went, "Oh, really? And what's that?" So, you know, it's because I'm, I guess, just so out there about it. It does invite questions.
Absolutely. Speaking of questions?
Yes, we've got the great questionnaire askers today. They're pouring on in. So I'm plucking them out of sort of a bit of tech checking at the same time. So bear with me while I pick the next one. A fairly direct one, this, but have you, in other occasions of disclosing, have you ever had employers turn you down?
There was, prior to starting in the position I'm in, there was three other positions I went for. One was temporary, and I got that one. And that I disclosed at interview that I had bipolar, so that wasn't a problem. The other two I disclosed that I had bipolar. There was two on the panel, interview panel. One was like, geez, you know, thanks for letting us know that, that's great, blah, blah, blah. But the other one was, you could see the body stiffened, he became more rigid, and you could tell that he wasn't really comfortable with that. So, and I didn't end up getting the job, but the lady said to me, I was gunning for you. So I did wonder whether it had factored in there.
Okay.
The body language it had.
Yeah. I'm going to, this one here, would I, the speaker, the asker actually, be right in saying that your success in disclosing has been successful by your own high-level knowledge and acceptance of your diagnosis of bipolar?
Yes, that again comes down to confidence and not being ashamed or embarrassed about having a mental illness. So getting over your own self-stigma, that's really important. I think if you're still at the stage of being ashamed or embarrassed of having a mental illness, you are going to struggle with putting forward your diagnosis to somebody else.
And I think it also makes it harder for employers at that point too, because, you know, if somebody is really struggling to talk about something very private to them that they're not comfortable with, then it's difficult for an employer to manage that. Whereas if you've got somebody who has accepted, you know, that the illness and the diagnosis and is able to say, well, you know, it's part of the package, it makes it much easier, I imagine, for an employer to take you on face value and go, all right, well, let's negotiate what you can and can't do. And
I think if I went in being a little bit more meek and mild and sort of looking down and obviously not comfortable, then it would prevent the employer from them feeling comfortable about asking further questions on it as well. And as I say, if you don't understand something, you're going to be a bit more cautious of that. So if they can't ask the questions.
And it sounds like you're pretty up for a fairly robust negotiation around things if necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you recommend seeking out roles, Nicci, that have inherently some flexibility built in? So like computer work and ability to work from home versus working in a team role or with structured set hours?
Yes. I'd have to say yes, because I tried the structured set hours at the start, and that was all fine. I mean, you get a new job and the mood sort of lifts a little bit, and a little bit hypomanic, and just breeze through everything. But when you start to come down and you can't get out of bed in the morning, and you need to be able to go in late and leave late, or you can't sleep, so you go in early and leave early. You just can't survive in a structured environment. And that's where, the type of work has to be very flexible too, not just the hours.
And it does sound like you've done very well in terms of matching not only the normal match that you have a job between their needs and your skills, but also your kind of need for flexibility in the job that you found. And it seems to work incredibly well for them that they also get all of that flexibility. I mean, they're not paying for a full-time employee, but they do have, you when they need you. And it sounds like you've always been willing to flex their way as well as your way.
How do you find the experience of lots of flexibility? Do you think this creates a reduced level of structure for you? And can that be a bit of a barrier?
If I'm having one of those days where I'm not feeling overly well, but not well enough to go to work, sometimes I will still not go to work, because I tell myself that if I go to work, this will progressively get worse and I'll just have to come home again. So sometimes you can self-talk yourself up a little bit, but you can also go the other way, and because it's flexible, well, I'll just do an extra couple of hours, the next day and the next day and the next day, sort of thing, to make that up. So in that way, it does have a little bit of negativity about it.
And I think that's what everybody says about flexible hours, with or without a mental illness. That, we all have to manage it, don't we? Manage ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had jobs where I've worked from home, and it's just those mornings where I'll just watch this show and then I'll get back to work and I'll just have another coffee, and it's tough. It's really hard to motivate yourself sometimes.
I think everybody has that experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did the work for myself once, but I procrastinate too much and do exactly what you said, Michael. And I just, after 12 months, no, I'll go back to being an employee, because then I have responsibilities that I must attend to.
Yeah, you need that sometimes, I think, just that little bit of pushing. Did you feel that when you were disclosing, did you feel that your diagnosis would place a ceiling on promotion or job progression? Was that something you thought about? Got some curly questions for you.
It is. I don't know. I personally don't feel it has caused that. But I've always been a person who goes out of their way to exceed, and I have a lot of pride in my work, and I've always moved up not up the ladder a lot, but moved up as I've gone along. And this position's been no different. I may not have moved up because there's nowhere else to go to from where I am, being such a small business. But they've added a lot more important tasks and responsibilities for me to take care of. So no, I don't believe it's held me back in any way.
That's great.